Today we're taking a little dive into the topic of bullet penetration in PUBG.
Headshot! What?
What's up, guys? I'm seriously speechless right now. I cannot thank everyone enough for the support over the last few days. I had so many big plans for 1,000 subscribers, and it came and went so much faster than I expected that I'm literally at a loss for what to do. But while I figure out the best way to give back to you guys for all this craziness, I wanted to just continue doing what I do best for you and break down different PUBG mechanics. So I'm sorry, enough of the sentimental nonsense. Let's take a look at the new bullet penetration mechanic in PUBG. The second test server for the 1.0 build recently came and went, and as we saw both in the patch notes and in testing, bullets can now penetrate water unlike before. Here's specifically what the patch note said. Bullets now penetrate water based on the velocity of the projectile. In parentheses, the faster the velocity, the more shallow the penetration. So for those of you that have seen the Mythbusters episode about this, they of course got the mechanic right on a realistic level. Rounds traveling at a very high velocity simply fragment and explode when met with the resistance of the water. You could be just about 14 inches underwater and you would be completely safe from a 50 cal. In theory, this means handguns, which have a quarter of the velocity compared to some of the higher powered guns in PUBG, should become pretty handy in the event that the final circles end near water. But let's actually take a look at this in game. By the way, show this video some love. Hannah took a lot of time out of her Thanksgiving day to help me test all of this out, and it was an absolute pain with how often the game was crashing on us Thursday night. Nonetheless, we have a lot to show you guys. I do want to point out that this is basically a casual analysis. Like some of you pointed out with the vaulting analysis video, much of this will have to be retested following the official 1.0 launch. This is more of a surface level examination, so we have some idea of how the mechanic functions. I definitely don't want anyone drawing exact conclusions off this data, as there are many different variables in these tests and the mechanic will likely change a little bit before the release. The first thing we did was stockpile as many different weapons as possible along the coast, and then I fired each of them into the water beside Hannah so we could record the bullet trail lengths and compare them. I arranged them in order of bullet velocity, and keep in mind there are other contributing factors to the trail length, such as with shotguns. While they have a decent velocity, they are firing multiple pellets instead of a single projectile. Alright, I'm going to play them all for you to see, and then at the end I will display a chart comparing all of the bullet trails in one frame. Firing. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so after a little bit of time in Photoshop, here are the bullet trails for the weapons we tested side by side. Not too many surprises here. You'll notice the high velocity guns on the far left break up almost immediately after impact, but all three handguns that were tested do extremely well firing into water. The shotguns, of course, have a shallower penetration despite their bullet velocity, and then unsurprisingly, if you've seen the Mythbusters, the crossbow shot all the way through the water to the ground. So while it'd be a very rare case, this means there's actually some use for the crossbow outside of getting in the highlight reels. If nothing else, you should be at least getting a better feel for the bullet velocity of some of these weapons. But for the next test, I had Hannah dive as deep as possible into the water, and then I shot all of the weapons straight at her. Here are the results. So even though some of the SMGs and handguns got pretty close, I still was not able to hit her with any of the firearms, even after some retesting. However, the crossbow was always a hit no matter how far under she was. In this next little test, I had her go just under the surface of the water and fired many rounds from the DP-28 without a single connection. Then I switched over to the Vector, which is an SMG firing 45s at roughly half the velocity or less, 300 meters per second, and immediately was able to register hits. Here's one more real world. Here's one more test. Here's one more real world. Here's I can't talk. Here's one more real world test for you guys. I had Hannah swim alongside the bridge just beneath the surface like someone would normally do to get out of sight. No matter what, I could not hit her with the M16, but once again, when I switched over to the lower velocity Vector, I was immediately able to take her out of the game. Even though we saw tiny bullet trails with the higher velocity guns, it's basically impossible to register a hit on a target that's completely submerged in the water. With those rifles, your opponent needs to literally come up for air before you're able to shoot them. Alright, that is the initial or casual analysis of bullet penetration in water. When the 1.0 build releases, make sure you or someone in your squad has a lower velocity weapon if you think you might run into some aquatic combat. I mean, this just adds one more valid reason to take a handgun along with you in PUBG. But let me know what you guys think. Is this the result you pretty much expected, or did anything surprise you? I've got plenty more analysis videos coming up from the second test server, so hit subscribe if you haven't already to stay tuned in for those. We were basically on running it through its paces until it closed around 2 AM our time. Until the next video drops though, I will see you guys on the Battlegrounds.